Hey folks, welcome to the Gaz and Mel Review Show, a show where we take a break from normal programming and review a movie of our choice. I'm Gaz.
And I'm Mel.
This time we've been brave, very brave. We went out to see a screening of the new Russell Crowe Exorcism movie, so you don't have to. And listen, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, hey, wait a minute, didn't Gaz and Mel already review a Russell Crowe Exorcism movie? I swear we did this a year ago, and you are correct. But apparently, there were two Russell Crowe Exorcism movies entirely unrelated to each other.
Yeah, not to be confused. One is not a sequel, which was filmed first.
Which is very confusing to me.
This was actually filmed in 2019.
Okay.
And The Pope's Exorcist was filmed in 2022.
So, yeah, and you told me this, by the way. You told me before we seen this movie.
I was doing research.
Yeah, and I should say the title, and I have to be honest, I had to write the title down because the title of the movie we're reviewing is so dull, so breathtakingly generic that I was like, what's it called again? It's called The Exorcism.
Because I'm going to stop you right there. How is The Exorcist a good title, but The Exorcism a bad title?
Oh, I'll explain this. So, no one had ever made a movie with the word exorcist in it back in 1973. Didn't even exist. So when you saw the title and it was in big red letters, it said The Exorcist, and you're like, oh God, that sounds hefty stuff. What could that be about? How scary could that be? But Mel, there has been a billion movies that have used the word exorcist in some way or another. There's the last exorcism. There's the first exorcism. There's the first exorcism before the last exorcism. There's so many titles for that word in it that now that they've released a movie that's just The Exorcism. I just thought, hasn't someone not done that yet?
See, I think because you are across this genre and have been since you were a teenager, that matters more to you.
It does.
I'm very new to this genre. I've seen 3 of these movies and 2 are starring Russell Crowe. So I don't have that same concern with the title.
Right. That's fascinating. I am fascinated because you're so fresh.
I don't care. I'm like, The Exorcism versus The Exorcist, it's fine.
It's such a subgenre of like hundreds of movies that have all branched off from the original Exorcist movie that I just feel I'm burnt, Mel. You know, I've watched hundreds of these things.
But you've also seen good ones. Because The Exorcist 1973 is brilliant.
I love that movie.
I have seen it for the first time this week, and I thought it was phenomenal.
Really?
Yeah.
So you really did enjoy it?
I did enjoy it.
I always wondered what you would have made of it.
So I was terrified about the idea of watching it. So I did download it on my iPad, and I was watching most of it on the train. So I felt safe.
Whoa, there's a couple of scenes you wouldn't want people seeing you
but
watching.
But it actually wasn't as scary as what I was expecting.
No.
I think if someone had briefed me about the level of fear, I would have just watched it at home. But I was like, I'm not sure I can handle this.
Okay.
So I'm going to do this with other distractions so I can't get too sucked in.
I get you. Yeah, that's totally fair. You know, especially when I suppose you felt the original Exorcist does carry this weight to it, this kind of mythological, how bad could this be?
It's larger than life. It's iconic.
It is, yeah. I agree. I mean, I heard stories about it being released.
And people vomiting and having these reactions.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I was like, well, if that's what's happened to them, and I can be a little sensitive at times, I'm going to put safety measures in place.
I like it.
So I don't get too scared.
Like morning time, you know.
Yeah, on the train in peak hour.
Beautiful. That's a great one. People watching you and then the title comes up and like, who is crazy enough to watch this?
A scaredy cat.
Like pre-work, you know, let's get into The Exorcist, you know, it's wonderful. I think it's appropriate though you watched the original Exorcist this week because The Exorcism is heavily paying homage to the original in a way that I think other movies don't.
But it's more than just The Exorcist. Like I feel like it's got, it's a bit more horror. So I feel like we should set the scene.
I think so. Let's do it. Should we get into a tiny bit of the plot, maybe?
A little bit.
Russell Crowe's in it. And, you know, he's not looking good. He's looking a bit rough. And I'll tell you why. Because he plays an actor. He plays an actor called Anthony Miller. And but the thing about him as an actor is he's not just an actor. He's an alcoholic. Oh, because he's...
And a drug addict. Like, he's a has-been actor.
Yeah, don't they talk about how it's been 2 years he's been out of the game because he's basically been in rehab and been down and out for the last 2 years, sitting alone and drinking and doing what alcoholic and drug addicts do. And so we're starting the movie as he's in recovery, in a way, isn't he? He's kind of recovering.
Well, you'd say he's on the comeback, right? Like, he's got a gig. He's got a script.
Yeah.
And his daughter's just been suspended from school.
Yeah.
Which is why she's back at home.
So it's all going tippity top, isn't it? I mean, this is a guy, he's just, and Russell Crowe, you can tell, he's at that age now, Mel, he's put on a bit of weight, he's looking a little older. I mean, he can do an alcoholic actor well. He
does.
He just looks like he's...
Did you notice that he had a scruffy beard with a fair amount of grey, but in his hair there was not a single speck of grey?
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Oh, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know how conscious
there was hair dye.
He still has a silicate back.
But the reason why Russell has, or his character, the reason why Tony is in this movie is because the original actor dies. Something happens on set. Remember, he's practicing his lines and he falls from the 3rd story.
Yes.
Now, the way it's kind of implied, it was not suicide to the audience. It looks like some sort of demonic or practical joke or something.
I mean, like many things in this movie, everything is extremely unclear. So it's more, rather than having a specific foe with a motif or something like that, it's more of a collision or a collage of various, here's a bit here, here's a bit here. It's one of these horror movies that's more, when someone dies, it's just kind of this montage of crap going on and lights and flickering.
But it makes no sense because it seemed to me that this first actor was not possessed.
No. It's a meta movie, I should say this. It's a postmodern take on the Exorcist genre, right? So the idea is that this is about a movie within a movie. So you're watching a Hollywood movie in the theater that's about the making of an exorcism movie, and the exorcism movie that's being made as part of the story seems to be basically the original Exorcist or remake.
They call it the Georgetown Project.
Right. And they call it that because...
That's where the movie's set, the original one.
That's where the original movie's in Washington and Georgetown. And so the moment the movie establishes this, I'm basically going, wow, well, they are totally tying the line between their movie and the original Exorcist movie. So they're setting the stage for me to go, if you want me to compare the two...
I'm going to.
I'm going to do it.
And I think that's dumb.
Oh, totally silly to do.
Don't set it up against a work of genius.
And can I also add to this? I guess one of the reasons this movie feels confident to say, hey, we are going to totally allude to the original movie that created this genre. The director of The Exorcism is Joshua John Miller. Now, Joshua John Miller is the son, in real life, of Jason Miller. Jason Miller is Father Karras in the original Exorcist.
Which is lovely, but so what?
So I guess, well, that's what I mean.
Like, no, as in I mean like he's the son of an actor. He's not the son of the director or the screenwriter or whatever else.
No, that's right.
Because that implies he has some sort of insight into the original.
Well, that's what I figure it is.
This dude doesn't.
Well, that's what I figure they're going for in a way.
He thinks he does.
But what's funny, Mel, is I've watched interviews with Joshua John Miller, and he said, well, we weren't really terribly keen on tying it too closely to the original movie. And I thought, well, then you've entirely failed, because so much of The Exorcism is callbacks to the original.
Cold room to everything.
Everything. There's so many visual motifs to the original. There's so many character things going on. You're shooting yourself in the foot if you're going to make a movie that's within an established genre, and you're kind of shooting yourself by tying it so closely to the classic original that started the whole thing. You want to kind of distance yourself because drawing attention to the fact that you're making a movie that's not as good as a movie 50 years ago isn't a great start.
No. But also making it a movie about a movie also takes away some of the magic for me. Because you're like, is this really a demon or is this the set having lights?
Right.
So there's a scene in the movie where I can't remember, it's lights or something falls from the ceiling and nearly hits the director on the head. Now, to be fair, he deserves that. He's a twat.
Yeah. So
He's absolute monster.
So like Adam Goldberg, I think, is playing the director in the movie. He plays Peter.
Yeah, who's horrible. But in that moment, it reminds me from something like in Phantom of the Opera.
Right. Actually, that's a great point. It is actually quite similar, except one is a classic and this one is a terrible movie.
Right, like it's just, don't make it a movie within a movie.
Do you find, all right, let me ask this then.
Yep.
I'll rejig your thought and go, when you do something metatextual or postmodern, which draws attention to the form itself, you like, so this is a movie about a movie, or I'll give you another example.
Which I don't love in general.
Right. This is new. I mean, there's lots of movies that have done this, but it's, I guess you could...
But again, Phantom of the Opera works. That is a movie and a musical about a musical.
Well, that's very true. I mean, the Phantom of the Opera is originally a stage show about a stage show,
Yeah.
And
but it works.
And it works,
So
yeah.
I shouldn't say I don't like it in general because I've seen it work really well. I just think in here it's a bit crass, and then they've taken the essence away from The Exorcist, which is about running an exorcism over a young, innocent girl. This is about a middle-aged drunk man who's done all these horrible things.
I see your point, and I guess... I can talk about, because William Peter Blatty, who wrote the original Exorcist and wrote the book, the reason he uses a young girl is because she's the personification of innocence.
And it works. You care that you get the demon out of her because she's a child. You care as an audience member.
Because the stakes are higher. That's the thing. I suppose that's why I guess I'm...
The stakes aren't high for Russell.
That's, I guess, what I'm trying to
He's
say.
already ruined his wife's life. He's ruined his daughter's life. He's a mess. He hates himself. The stakes are way lower.
Do you think the issue, though, is that, so the film early is establishing Russell Crowe's character, Tony Miller is this washed-up actor and he's a bit of a loser. Russell Crowe plays him as a loser. He's good in the role, but obviously the material's not great. And you're watching, he's also very awkward with his estranged daughter. They've got a bit of an awkward relationship. But to ask you, is your problem you don't actually care about him?
Whether
really?
he lives or dies, no. What I would have much preferred to have seen is that Lee, the daughter, gets possessed.
Okay.
And rather than the priest sacrificing himself to save the daughter, Russell does. That's interesting.
I could see that. Yeah.
There's a redemption quality in that, going, I have ruined your life. I've ruined your mother's life. I am going to self-sacrifice myself so you can be free.
Right.
That's interesting.
I can see where you're going. And I suppose the ultimate point you're making is that Russell Crowe as a character is inherently dislikable. And I don't know about you, Mel.
And half his life's over. He doesn't have most of his life to go.
Yeah.
Right? A child does, or the 16-year-old girl does.
Yes, that's right.
It's a loss if we lose them.
Yeah.
It's less of a loss if he dies.
I'll change this a little bit, right? How about this? Because I know one of the things about the original Exorcist, it's one of the reasons it's so compelling, is that the whole idea of using a young girl, the reason the demon Pazuzu possesses Regan in the original Exorcist is not to destroy Regan's life. The whole point of the demon possessing a young girl in particular is because the act of destroying a young girl effectively ruins the lives so much more of the people around Regan.
Yeah, absolutely it does.
So the demon isn't doing what it's doing in The Exorcist because it's like, I want to destroy a young girl. It's looking to destroy as much of the humanity around Regan as possible. And the way to do that is to pick the personification of innocence for all of those people. So the cop or the mother or even the maid and, even Karis and the priests. I mean, the whole idea of them seeing the young girl become completely consumed by evil is to destroy their lives.
Well, if you think about it this way, from the demon's perspective, if it's a battle between good and evil, he managed to end the life of 2 priests, which you could view as like warriors of the good.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So you would go by targeting a child, that's how you get the maximum destruction of the people on the good side.
That's right.
And that's brilliant.
And that psychology is quite effective, because I think sometimes other exorcism movies that have taken all of these ideas and ripped them off and ran with them, and this Russell Crowe movie is an example. The thing is, they always forget that the reason the first one's so compelling is because it has that circle around Regan that's the target. Regan herself isn't the target of the demon, it's everyone around her.
Well, she is, plus them. It's both.
Kind of, but she's particularly chosen to have that
maximum impact.
Yeah. And so I suppose that's why that original movie's so effective, because that, as you said, the maximum impact is what really gets under the audience's skin.
That's the same with the Pope's Exorcist.
Yeah, true.
They pick a little boy.
It's the same
thing.
And I know it's cheesy, but it's there's a reason it has maximum impact, And I suppose we're saying, if you're gonna go, I'm gonna pick a overweight Russell Crowe, and he's a bit of a washed up guy, he's a bit of an alcoholic, a bit of a loser, we're gonna destroy him with demon stuff. And you're like, well, if he's the center of the possession and the demon's going, I'm gonna pick on this washed up actor
who doesn't have many friends or many people that love him.
Right, you do just sit
There's
there and
no
go,
maximum impact.
I mean, do I care?
Yeah, do we just let him go?
Do I honestly really give a rat's about this? I'm not so sure. This isn't to pick on the acting, because the funny part is, and movies are funny in a weird way, reviewing them is really interesting, because I can watch The Exorcism, and me and Mel were there. I was watching it going, everybody's working hard. They're all working hard. Russell Crowe looks like crap, and he worked at that. He had to eat a lot of sausage rolls to do that. And so, he looks like rubbish. And then you've got his daughter, who I think is terrific. She's played by Ryan Simpkins. I think I look at her and she's doing, they're doing a great job. And you've got Adam Goldberg's very good. He's a detestable director.
Yeah.
This guy is the director in the movie within a movie.
And
I
David
have never
Hyde
seen
Pierce as Niles Crane is also very good in it.
Yeah, David Hyde Pierce is good. I mean,
let's put it this way: the support cast in this is better than the support cast in The Pope's Exorcist.
I think that's true.
It's a better quality of acting.
I mean, I think it's true.
That's a better movie. So it shows just because you can act doesn't mean you're going to get a good outcome.
With the sole exception of Sam Worthington, who
is awful.
I'm not convinced now. I have to say,
he is rubbish.
I have to say, and I don't like picking up, because maybe he was misdirected, or maybe he just did a day's work.
He looks hot in the movie.
Well,
he's still hot.
He's a good-looking guy,
but he's rubbish.
Yeah, you should see him.
Do
when
you know
he's
why?
blue,
Because he's too pretty.
Maybe.
He's too pretty to play the priest.
Yeah.
The priest is meant to look tortured. In every version of these exorcism movies, the priest is a bit tortured.
And he's kind of playing the younger buck, isn't he?
Yeah, but in The Exorcist, he is tortured too.
Yeah.
His mother is dying, then dies. He's like, I'm losing my faith.
Just to be clear too, I mean, Jason Miller in the original Exorcist, the young priest, I mean, his performance is maybe one of my favourite performances ever.
Phenomenal, but he does look tortured, is my point.
He's unbelievably good.
Sam Worthington doesn't look tortured. So this is where I feel like some of the exorcism trope changes.
Yeah.
Because sometimes Russell Crowe is becoming a bit of a serial killer.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't think that's part of the...
Exorcism movies always have to go, how do we kind of signpost to the audience that someone's possessed by a demon? You have to do something.
Yes.
So in the original, her skin goes green and starts decomposing, and
that green vomit is brilliant.
Oh, I mean,
it's the weirdest colour.
It's all very it's quite well done. It's quite, visually, that's a bit weird, It really gets under your skin. And so when you see this movie, they got to do the same thing, but you can't just repeat, everything that's been done before. So they do some, how do you know that Russell Crowe is possessed? Because he's kind of not fully demonic yet. What are we going to tell the audience? Yeah, we'll give him smoky eyes.
Oh no, they do that shower scene where the black veins are on his shoulder.
Well, yeah, they do. They got a little bit of black veinage on the shoulder, and it's like, oh, okay, that doesn't look good. It looks like he's got some shingles. And then in every scene where he's acting and he's demonic, his eyes get really dark. He gets really shadowy eyes. And then when he's not demonic, his shadowy eyes go away. And you're just like, oh, God, is that it? Is that it, honestly?
But at the same time, and this is where this could have been interesting if they had done it properly, they play along with his mental health versus is he possessed? Because earlier on in the movie, he starts blacking out, which according to Lee, he used to do back in the day.
Well, he's
showing other symptoms of not taking his medication. Now, if they had teased that out further, that could have been really interesting. Is it a demon? Is it mental health? But they just make it far too quick to determine, no, it's a demon. And then he doesn't have any moral responsibility when he starts killing people.
Well, I think you're right. You're saying there's no mystery.
None.
There's absolutely no mystery whatsoever. If you watch the original Exorcist, I mean, you know it's a demon, but the thing...
Not for a while. You don't know that.
Well, I would say now, in theory, everyone knows.
But when you went to the cinema...
But when you're in the movie...
In 1973, you did not know that for the first good part of it.
That's a really good point. Yeah, you're totally right. I think... But I would even argue that even if you do know it's a demon, even if you're like, I know it's a demon, the fact that the movie, the original, takes you on the mysterious journey of working it out... Like literally working it out and doing the detective work and doing the groundwork of going, if it is a demon, how do we prove it? And the fact that they go on that journey, even if you know where it ends up, it's still a really interesting journey of working stuff out.
Well, and her demise is much slower. Russell Crowe goes crazy way too quickly.
Correct. Yeah. Like the first movie allows you that room to argue, well, maybe she's just nuts. Maybe she is.
Or maybe she's just having a bit of a breakdown because her daddy is not calling for her birthday and is neglecting her. Like it could be because the first kind of real scene you see is her peeing on the floor.
Which is a brilliant scene.
Which could have been because of stress, trauma, sleepwalking, like all normal mental health things as opposed to a demon.
And then in this movie, they have Russell Crowe peeing on the floor of his apartment building.
Yes, in the basement.
And I was like, oh, come on. Like, if you don't want me to compare the scene.
Don't compare.
Don't literally redo the scene.
They could have done something else. There's a million things they could have done.
There's a million things you could have. Just be creative. Think outside the box. It's just such a trope of me going, they're literally ticking a list of crap.
You know what I think they thought they were doing? They thought by having it being a grown middle-aged man, that was the difference. They forget that what actually matters is the activity, not who does it, that allows us to trigger and compare.
It's so true. I mean,
that's what you notice. It's not...
I think they've missed the fact that, like, just because we as an audience, I think today, right, we know it's a demon, right? It's not, because you're making a movie called The Exorcism, it's probably a demon, right? They've forgotten the fact that if you make a mystery interesting, even if you know where it's going, or if you can predict correctly where it's going to go, that doesn't make the mystery a bad part of a movie, right? Because the thing is, the problem about making a postmodern movie is that you're making a movie about the tropes of established conventions. But what you're forgetting is that those conventions are what usually still make those movies fun to watch.
So let's talk about the cold room as an example.
Right.
So on the movie set, there's literally a door that says the cold room.
Yeah.
And when you go in, it's meant to be cold. And you're presuming it's because you want to do the breath.
Right.
Like in the original one. But when you finally get to the scene in the cold room, there is no breath.
Well, that's the first thing I moaned about you about.
And you're just like, why even have the whole cold room set up?
I mean, that was when the movie really, I mean, it tanked by a long time ago.
Before that.
It tanked in the first 10 minutes, I think. But when we get to the finale of The Exorcism, Mel's totally right. Because the thing is, the cold room is a set in the movie within a movie. And it's refrigerated because the original movie refrigerated the bedroom.
But you can't see their breath.
And the whole point of Friedkin, the director, William Friedkin, the original Exorcist director, he refrigerated the bedroom set in the first movie because to him, because because if you think about it, right, all exorcism movies, unfortunately for the people that make them, they always boil down to people yelling or talking in a room. Right, and it's not the most exciting thing to do, right? You just, you're.
What do you mean? When Raven lifts herself off the bed, that's very cool.
Oh, I think you're right, and that movie's amazing. But I think in theory, right, it's still dialogue based. It's still...
How else do you do an exorcism?
Right, exactly. It's still words. It's still, the Roman ritual at the end of the day. And in theory, you're thinking, how do I make this visually exciting? And that's always a terrifying thing for a director to have to carry that weight. And part of Friedkin's answer to that is if we refrigerate the room, when you see the breath and the words coming out of their mouth and the priests are doing the ritual, part of the visual is seeing the heat of the words literally coming out of them because they carry weight, they carry heat, they're visual, you can see the intensity of it coming out as breath. There's a lot of really good dramatic reasons why breath works in the original Exorcist. It's a really cool, it separates the bedroom from the complete rest of the house.
Very much so.
There's this really clever way of doing it. It's psychologically, it's very effective. And so in this movie, they do the same bloody scene. They set it up. They literally show you a shot of the refrigeration unit that is turned on. They literally go, there it is. It's got a little pipe and the little paper in the end of it's flicking. And you're going,
great. I'm ready.
It's all cold. And so then the exorcism starts. The bedroom looks the same as the original movie. You've got David Hyde, Niles, Fraser's brother is there.
So we've only got one priest this time, not two.
That's right. Niles is there. But
instead we've got the two girls in the room.
And the two girls are there.
Rather than two priests.
And as they yell, and the demons in one of them, and then they're all doing the things of like, possess me and blah, blah, blah. Nobody has any cold breath at any point in the entire scene. And I've never seen a movie spend 90 minutes tell me where I'm going and then get me there and then not even have the fucking details.
What do you reckon happened?
To even go...
Do you reckon it was a COVID? No, it was made before COVID, 2019. You can't just say it's a COVID problem.
It's not even an excuse. They can do it digitally. You know what I mean? They've so many assets digitally to just stick in a breath.
It's like they forgot.
It's like they forgot to do cold breath. And I thought, that's literally like the last quarter of the original movie is bloody breath, isn't it? And I thought to myself, I suppose I don't judge a movie by the nitty gritty details. But
yes, you do.
Well, sometimes, but I'm willing to forgive a movie if it's a little like picky or a little too picky on my behalf. I'm willing to call that out. But the thing is, Mel, this is literally a movie that's saying to me and to you, we know the world of the original Exorcist so well. I am the son of one of the actors from the original Exorcist movie. I am so knowledgeable about what those movies are made from that when I do my version of it, it's going to be worth it. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, mate, you missed a big fucking sitter with the breath. That shit is gone.
So answer me this. We've got basically Dr. Niles Crane as the priest. Yeah. Why does he sacrifice himself to save Russell Crowe? I don't get that in this movie. No, I don't either, no. I'm like, dude, just let Russell die.
Because they don't have a relationship in the movie.
None.
The movie we're talking, you're right, but one of the reasons this relationship is not there is because you guys should know the movie's very episodic.
It's disjointed. I don't like that.
I think I felt that too. There's a very amateurish feeling of the writing and the editing because some of
the writing is awful. There's a ton of like,
a lot of that.
You're like, come on, guys. I'm watching a movie. I get that's how people talk in real life, but I don't want to see this on screen.
Well, yeah. It's like you put me in a movie, I'll say it all the time, But like, I agree with you. Like, there's some very fun. I must say, there's some very funny moments because of this a very odd editing thing. Because really, a normal movie goes, we're building up to something, and then when something happens, you think, well, here's the consequences of that something. But this movie doesn't do that.
No.
This movie builds you up to something, and then it happens, and then it cuts to like 6 days later, and nobody talks about it. And you're like, what the? There was one scene that me and Mel watched, and I thought, oh, the movie's really heating up here. And it's a scene where they're doing the movie within a movie, and Russell Crowe, which I find very funny because Russell Crowe is an actor who's been hired to act as a priest, but he's possessed by a demon in the story. He's a shit actor because he's possessed by a demon. He's not very good.
No, it's more than that. He's shit because he's traumatized because he was sexually abused by a priest as a kid.
There is that too. And yeah, I must say, if you're going to make a movie about sexual abuse of the priesthood, you need to just really make that, because that's a difficult,
It requires nuance and empathy and everything else. But don't do it as part of an Exorcist movie.
I was going to say,
it's horrible.
It's like that thing where you're like, man, I need to make this guy a bit deeper. What am I going to do? You know what? I heard that story about the Catholic Church are doing all this dodgy stuff. Let's stick that in it. It's a very cheap way of adding pain to a character's life.
Put it this way, in the Pope's Exorcist, them blaming demons for causing the Spanish Inquisition
was funny.
Was better.
It was very funny.
It was very funny.
I mean, to erase all of that,
Do you think Russell Crowe signed up to the Pope's Exorcist because he was like, the exorcism is so bad, I need to redeem myself?
That could be it. Russell Crowe has done no press for this movie, and I mean nothing, right? This movie,
but you wouldn't either.
I wouldn't either. But I just find that interesting. Like he hasn't done an interview.
No, but do you Miramax made the movie? I'm assuming Miramax is just going through its back catalogue and releasing stuff now to make some cash.
Yeah, I think
because they're broke.
They were Disney owned, and then Miramax and the catalogue were sold to, I think, Paramount Global. And so I don't know what they're doing with it. I really don't know.
They're just trying to flog things off.
I figure it's just kind of the value is in the back catalogue. That's the truth. But like, he makes the movie in 2019. The movie was filmed in 1 month, by the way, I should say that.
It's really tight.
It's very, I mean, you can tell because they didn't spend much time in the details, but they fly through it. And then the movie sits on the shelf for like 3 years and they're like, oh, it's COVID. And I'm like, look, to be honest with you, you could have filmed it. You know what I mean? I know you're saying...
Do not blame COVID for the problems in this movie. That is not the problem here.
So the finished filming in 2019, and then they were like, nah, we couldn't do anything with it until 2023 because of COVID. And I'm like, no.
This is not James Bond.
I'm pretty sure you can do something about it. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know why it took 4 years or 3 years to do it.
I reckon they decided it was so bad no one wanted to put the press in to advertise it.
I honestly think they put it together and they're like, this is awful.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, what are we going to do? And then we need a bit of money now. Let's remember that Exorcism movie?
We paid tickets.
Yeah, we did. Cheap tickets, so I should say. We didn't pay a lot of money.
People walked out of the cinema.
That was very funny.
There was probably only about 6 or 8 people in the cinema and 2 people walked out.
So I counted this, right? So there was 6 people in the theater. 2 of them were me and Mel. And about an hour into the movie, and there's only 30 minutes left, right? 2 people just went, fuck it, I'm going. And
we laughed at a fair amount of this movie.
We did. Yeah, you laughed openly at like very ridiculous bit, and I thought it was very funny because
it was.
People were like, "Who's this crazy woman laughing?"
There's
at all
only 6 of us in the cinema. I don't need to be quiet.
Yeah, but when me and you were sitting there, we were a further front than most, and we could see the 2 people leaving out of the theater. We were like, maybe they're the smart people.
We committed.
We did. It was very, very funny. I mean, yeah, that was a very, very funny theater experience. I want to say to our audience, the movie ended and the credits came up and it was like, you're the production director, blah, blah, blah. And we were like, oh, the movie's over. And Mel just turned to me and she went, we can't make an episode about that.
I was like, we can't do this.
We cannot do an episode in that movie. That was so terrible.
Because we don't recommend you see it.
No.
But what I would say is, if you've never seen The Exorcist,
oh yeah,
go and see it.
Yeah.
Because it is a phenomenal piece of work. And if you're looking for a bit of fun and you want a bit of travel porn, go and watch The Pope's Exorcist.
Yes, that is a good movie. And,
it's not good. Let's not overstate this.
No, well, let's be clear. Now that I've seen The Exorcism, it is shot up in quality to me. Because I was thinking about this. I thought, The Exorcism makes The Pope's Exorcist look like The Exorcist.
Completely.
But
let's say why. Like, part of it is it's in a spooky house in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, it does things to make it feel scary.
Let me give everyone some free advice. Let's do that. If you're going to make a postmodern movie, right? Movies within movies, I am fully on board with this. You can do it.
Less so.
But there's one part of that needs to be present if you're going to do it. And I can prove it to you. It needs to be very fun. You need to have fun. fun because I tell you, Scream, you know the Scream movies?
Yes.
They were postmodern movies because they spent the entire 80s doing slasher movies, and then Scream is making a movie about kids obsessed with slasher movies who are themselves in a slasher movie. It's very postmodern. And the thing about Scream is that for all the fear and the stabbing, it's really fun.
Because it doesn't take itself seriously. And it knows what it's doing. This movie doesn't know what it's doing.
You have to make them fun, right? Cabin in the Woods, I don't think you've seen this one, but Cabin in the Woods is a very postmodern take on monster movies and horror movies. The thing about doing all of that metatextual stuff, all that ironic self-referential things, is that they have a lot of fun with it. It's so empty because you're just kind of putting a lens on what we already know. So there's a kind of emptiness or shallowness to it as an exercise. But if you make it fun, you can actually satirize it, or you can make it comedic and still have the fun of having it be a horror movie. Because I can't just look at you do the tropes and go,
it's not good enough. It's been done too many times.
You're like winking at me going, yeah, it's like the original. Remember the original? Remember that? And you're like, yeah, but it's not fun, guys. It's not fun. It's too serious. It's so dull. It's dull. It's dull. I gotta say, it's really dull. I do laugh. The poster of this movie looks like the poster of the Pope's Exorcist. I thought it was hilarious. It's the same. It's exactly
the same dude.
It's like the same color. I looked at it, might as well use the same poster.
Well, maybe they were trying to convince people that it was the same movie.
Well, that's what, yeah.
Go. Because if you like The Pope's Exorcist, go see this.
I missed it. I might as well go see it again.
And The Pope's Exorcist is set up so there could be a sequel.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
So you could totally imagine people going, is this the sequel?
Which is part of the reason I thought The Pope's Exorcist was so funny, is that but like the movie hasn't even convinced you it's good, and it's going, we're going to make millions of these. And you're like, God, you've got guts. You know what I mean? Maybe just release it first, maybe, and see if people like it. No, we're committed, and they didn't make another one. But yeah, I mean, God, they brought Frasier's brother into it, Mel. I'm heartbroken. David Hyde Pierce has got Frasier money. He doesn't need to do this stuff. Hasn't he been through enough? Just you're okay. I think he's just glad to get out of the house,
Maybe he wanted to play a priest. Maybe it's on his bucket list.
Maybe it is. Oh, it was. I mean, it's always nice seeing David Hyde Pierce, and he should be getting good roles. I wish I'd seen him more often. But
maybe he's legitimately retired. Maybe after the disaster of this, he's like, I'm out.
Yeah. Maybe he's donating it to a children's charity. I mean, I don't know. But boy, I hope some good comes out of it, because nothing good came out of this thing. And, this is a 90-minute movie. You guys will know if you listen to the other shows. Me and Mel, we love a 90-minute movie.
Love it. It's short. It's tight.
God, it gets in, gets out. I'm home. And you go in, and I tell you, I got tonight, I felt like...
It felt 2 hours.
It felt 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like
because it's not good.
Boy, it was like brutal. And so every Exorcist movie always has this thing where, gee, he's acting weird, she's acting weird. I don't know. We do the sensible thing, because logic plays through your brain, and you think we got to get the medical people involved. That's what you got to do. Let's do medicine first. Science. Let's give science a good crack at this. And so the fun thing about most exorcism movies is that tension between science and then people going, nah, it's supernatural demon stuff. And so...
But there's no doctor in this movie.
No.
None.
Nobody even tries it.
Straight to the...
Yeah. Like, Russell Crowe just acts weird at home, and you're like, it's a demon. And you're like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean it's a demon? Go to the hospital.
This is a man with serious mental health conditions who stopped taking his medication. Why are we not just putting him in a hospital?
Go to the ER.
For 72 hours and getting back on his medication.
Like, it doesn't even do this.
No.
Right? Like, the movie's just completely bypasses logical human thought.
The key bit.
Yeah. I mean, I was like...
Medical intervention fails. That's why we bring a priest in.
I mean, it's very funny. I mean, one of the funniest scenes is like David Hyde Pierce is like, it sounds like he's going through a hard time. And then everyone leaves, and then he takes out a book of Latin and then looks at a demon, and it's like, it's that demon that's got him.
I don't know what that's even based on. How do we even know it's that demon?
I mean, the movie does these logical jumps that makes you just go, dude, like there's no, this isn't, humans don't think like this,
No.
But
again, even in The Exorcist, the young priest is also a psychiatrist.
Yes.
And
which
he's
is brilliant.
like, we're not doing an exorcism because she's just mentally disturbed.
That's right. It's one of the reasons I love the original is because even the priests are like, you don't want to do this.
No.
It's a really bad idea. And if you and it's also, if you do an exorcism to a mentally ill person, it kind of self-fulfills their fantasy. It's a bad idea.
Which is just bad.
Yeah. It's a great, like, you know, the psychology of it is good. Yeah. 100%. It's such a fun...
And this movie has no tension. That's the difference.
It's not even logical. I mean, me and Mel audibly laughed. I mean, one of the best parts is that for the first 2/3, right, you're going like, you know, I think he's possessed, but he's not doing crazy stuff. You know, he's not like eating the wallpaper, right?
Until on the movie set where he does the crazy backflip thing.
Right. And so there's this scene, and it must have been added, maybe that was one of the reshoots, because it comes out of nowhere where Russell Crowe is supposedly acting on set, and then he starts contorting, and he contorts his body in that very demonic way where his entire back does an impossible... Let me tell you, Russell Crowe doesn't stretch. I know his body can't do that. And so then when he does this kind of Cirque du Soleil performance, and he does these guttural throat noises like all demonic people do. And then he starts bashing his head on the dining room table. And I don't mean like tapping his head on
properly.
I mean like he's hammering in the world's biggest nail.
And no one tries to stop him.
Well, because
no one.
Yeah, because it's a movie set. The director's there, the cast's there, his own daughter's there, and they're all looking at him. And I, as you did too, you go, well, the cat's out of the bag now, because
call the ambulance, get him admitted to hospital.
That guy is not. He is demonically possessed.
Oh yeah, yeah. In movie land, he's demonic, but at the same time, they don't do anything.
They don't do anything.
Like what?
The movie cuts to black, and then the next scene is people at home going, "How are you feeling? Are you feeling okay? Let me get you a cup of tea."
As if.
And you're like, what do you get this man? A priest? Like, because it's so bizarre.
I mean, the priest is in the house.
Yeah, I don't know, Mel. It's just so weird. Like, that's an escalation moment. That's a moment when the movie goes, right, this is it. The demon's coming out now. And then the movie then goes, no, let's calm down now. And you're like, no, that's not calm down. Like, he literally went crazy on the set. Everybody
saw it.
The makeup people, costumers, everybody be like, I am not working with that guy until they suck a demon out of him with a Ghostbuster thing.
But also, Lisa Minor. Who's letting her go home with her dad after that?
Totally true. Are you going to be all right on your own? Because that guy looks like he might kill people.
Yeah.
You know? So again, going back to the same thing, logically, there's some ridiculous human logic in this. People don't behave like this. They do.
And even movie demons don't behave like this either.
No, he goes back. He does a few things. He goes back on set. I can't believe they didn't fire him. You know, because this director keeps talking about what a shit actor he is, and I'm like, just fire him. Anyway, as you can tell, we just love it. We just love this.
Hey, we had a great time at the cinema. Come on, we had lots of laughs.
It was very funny. And can I
suggest maybe this is a drinking game film?
Yeah.
Get some mates over, someone's house, come up with some drinking game rules and have a bit of fun with it.
I think so. I think if you do a shot of...
It doesn't matter, anything.
No, it has to be specific.
Oh, right.
You do a shot of Fireball, right? Every single time there's a reference to the original Exorcist, you'll be drunk in the first 15 minutes. It'll be the best night of your life. It's unbelievable.
And please be safe, folks.
Please be safe. No, I don't drink, so I shouldn't really encourage anyone else to do it. Yeah, I mean, it's not good, Mel, is it? It's not good.
No, it's rubbish.
It's hard to make good movies. It's hard to make bad movies. So, it's no reflection on somebody's lack of hard work. Somebody worked hard on this movie, but it just didn't turn out properly.
And maybe this is not the right career for them.
Maybe. That's very true. I think we should rate it, though. What do you think? I think we should do you want to give it a rating?
Out of 5?
Out of 5, yeah. You can do halves as well. I kind of like that.
No halves. Come on, let's just pick a number.
I like a half, but...
So I'm going 1.
I have also rated it 1. 1 out of 5. Genuinely...
It's rubbish.
Pretty amateurish, pretty irredeemable. I think in my Letterboxd review I wrote... I'll tell you what my review was. I said, The Exorcism is the worst thing to happen to exorcists since demons. Which I thought was quite good.
Good line.
I thought that was all right. But I also love that we've done 2 review shows officially, and both of them are for Russell Crowe exorcism movies. I think
part of it is we just enjoy Russell Crowe.
I think
the good and the bad.
The bad.
And yet we still haven't done Gladiator.
Mostly bad, but I agree. Thank you, though. Thank you guys for listening.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Gaz, for the suggestion.
Oh, yeah, no worries. We'll review another one now in due course as well.
Now, what are we doing next month?
Well, we haven't officially decided, have we? Have we decided?
Well, we've been talking about a two-parter.
Oh, I think you know where you're going.
So the two-parter was we would do about the New York Times investigation into Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
She Said,
which is Jennifer Connelly.
Brilliant movie.
Very good movie.
And then, to get a different perspective, we thought we'd travel to London and do the movie Scoop.
Yes, starring Gillian Anderson.
Yes.
So, and that's about the Prince Andrew interview that Emily Maitlis did.
Yes.
Right.
Which really brought down Prince Andrew.
And they're quite recent. I mean, She Said was a few years ago. It's a great movie. And then, but Scoop is this year. Yeah, it's only released. So.
They're both on Netflix.
Yeah, okay, so they're both on Netflix. So yeah, you guys, you can, if you haven't seen them, you can watch both before we do our show then.
And we're doing it as a two-parter because I think it's important to look at the different sides to see how this behavior can occur.
So interesting.
I think if you don't have that context, you don't get how it occurs.
I agree. That's going to be interesting. I genuinely can't wait to get into the nitty-gritty with those two. So thanks, folks. That sounds good. So check it out when our next episode comes out. And don't forget, you can subscribe or leave us a review on your favourite podcast app. If you want, you can go onto our website at realmoviesfakehistory.com.
What about movie requests? We love getting movie requests.
Give us an email. That's a good idea. So if you've got a comment or a suggestion for us, give us an email at realmoviesfakehistory@gmail.com. We love to hear feedback from our listeners, so go for it. And yeah, we'll catch you on the next one.
Sounds good.